call the meeting to order, and we will start with a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, just for the record, this is our Education, Technology, and Student Services Committee, and we're going to be doing a workshop format tonight, and everyone appears to be in attendance. No one is on the phone, except Mr. Brees appears not to be here yet. I have not heard from him, so I don't know if he'll be coming in later or he's not going to be attending. The first thing we're going to do is have an approval of the September 3rd, 2019 minutes. Mr. Elsier moves. You Savage seconds. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, next up is public comment number 1, and there is no public comment. I am going to ask Mr. Stout to talk about our first item of discussion, which is a proposed change to the 2019-2020 school calendar.
Thank you, and welcome all to our second Education, Technology, and Student Services Committee. I always have to look to make sure I get all the names into the committee name, that we're hitting all of our elements. We wanted to provide an overview in last week's weekly update. We discussed in the weekly update that we were looking to potentially add an early dismissal day on November 5th. So one of the components that we wanted to bring to your attention tonight was the background to adding this early dismissal on November 5th, because it is not part of our calendar that was approved for this school year. We have had the wonderful opportunity to have Tom Stecker and Associates present social emotional learning to our school district. We have committed to Mr. Stecker for 2, possibly upward of 3 years, to provide professional learning to our district. One of the elements that Mr. Stecker brings to the table is this visual. And I really like the look of it, where it is an umbrella that catches all of these things. And when you look in the umbrella, it's social emotional learning, and this is the convergence point of how it all comes together. I can read through each thing. It's trauma-informed care, climate, diversity and equity, positive behavioral support systems, growth mindset, diversity and equity, I believe I said cultural, restorative justice, mindfulness, SAP, and MTSS, which are supports that are in our school systems, a responsive classroom, wellness, mental health, resiliency, and behavioral management. As you read in the news, as you hear anecdotes from around the country and different elements, these are all very important topics in not only our educational entity, but also our culture in general. So we have committed to Mr. Stecker. I'm providing you with an overview of what the calendar of events that Mr. Stecker and the Boyertown Area School District are working together to do. He performed for our administrative team on August 6th an administrative retreat, and we had SEL training for our whole leadership team. On August 20th, he was our opening day message on SEL for all professional staff. I believe a couple board members were at that presentation and heard his message on that particular day. Something that is very exciting for us to undertake for the next steps are 3-hour sessions, one on October 14th and one on January 29th. We are providing workshops in 3 significant categories, one being emotional wellness, another one being social wellness, and the other one being physical wellness. And under each of those umbrellas are areas that there are going to be workshops in each of those entities for our teachers and administrative staff to pick and choose on those days to participate in. What's super exciting, they can only pick one workshop on October 14th, which by the way is Columbus Day. On January 29th, the same workshops will be given to our district, and if you didn't have an opportunity, let's just say I wanted to participate in stress management. I can't imagine why I would want to do that. On the time in January, I could actually do finding a balance or yoga and meditation or mindfulness. I could pick another workshop. So our staff is going to have 2 opportunities to really look at some of these social emotional elements. What we're proposing is on November 5th, if we add this professional learning half day, one of Tom Stecker's key associates will be coming and talking to us about trauma-informed care and SEL. And Mary Beth Torsha is not here today, but we have just gotten mandates with respect to our state requirements that we are going to be asked by the state to provide trauma-informed care professional learning to our staff members. So we were on the cusp of doing this as a district because we had already connected with Mr. Stecker. Dr. Obero was critical in that initial contacts to be able to do that, and it's been a very wonderful, excellent opportunity for our staff to connect with this. Over the upcoming year for the 2021 school year, that seems like so far away, but Tom Stecker and Associates will continue with our leadership team professional learning on February 12th and March 18th. There will be more early dismissal days and work with our SEL champion committee. We have, spearheaded by Dr. Obero, an SEL champion committee where we have numerous members of each of our buildings want to take on social emotional learning and how did we have an impact on that with respect to our adults and then second our students. We have 115 of our professional learners throughout the district that have signed on for this committee, so we're super excited to expand this knowledge onto those spearheaded people in our buildings. In June of 2020, we will have another professional learning action planning for our admin team around SEL implementation, and then finally we'll come back to August 2020 for more professional learning for our staff. So to go back to the previous slide, because of the nature of concerns that are coming about in our community, as well as a continuation, we felt it imperative if we have the opportunity to provide another day of very specific, supportive professional learning for our staff, we would like to propose that on that particular day. On a really cool side note, for Mr. Stecker and Associates, for those of you that know that I live in the Berks County area and have passed Mr. Stecker's name on to the Wilson School District, which is my home district. They are capitalizing on Mr. Stecker's supports as well because of the need. And I recently just learned that Mr. Stecker is going to be the keynote speaker for the PA-ASCD conference. So again, we are on the cusp of having one of the very influential speakers to help support our district through this initiative. So what we're asking for at this meeting is, it's not necessarily connected to what we're going to be talking about shortly, but we're looking for a thumbs up to move forward with the addition of the November 5th early dismissal day to the agenda for October 22nd School Board of Directors voting meeting. Just by giving the thumbs up now, just as another side note, because it's August 22nd and that's really only a couple weeks before November 5th, October 22nd. What did I say, August? Yeah. Oh, no, we don't want to go back to August. October 22nd, we'd have to start the whole school year over again. We don't really want to do that. But on October 22nd, if we waited that long to really get the kind of formal approval, which we do need to have the vote, we need to advertise and put it out to our community that we're going to have the early dismissal. So this gives us approximately a little more than a month, because today is October 1st, to get that information out to our stakeholders.
So just in the interest of time, is anybody not in favor of this or have an issue or concern? No? Okay. Well, then I think you have your direction.
Okay, thank you. Now the really fun stuff. The Education and Technology and Student Services Committee meeting. What I did to prepare for tonight's meeting is I really did not change information that was in the presentation from before. I added on to it, so I just wanted to make sure we had, this is a resource. Dr. Obero and I had added more pieces to it today for this meeting, so I will make sure in the weekly update I give you a copy, a PDF copy of the presentation, because there are a few more slides that are added from when I gave it to you on Thursday, just because we were trying to figure out all of the information we wanted to put into this presentation for tonight. Can try to do that and maybe put one slide on a page. So again, I'm not going to go back over a lot of the information, but one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that there was a review of our vision, mission, goal work. So our workshop that we had back on September 3rd, which I can't believe is a whole month ago, started the work in this process. The timeline that we have moved forth with and we are continuing to move forward with is on September 3rd, we had our last workshop meeting, and on October 1st, we're having our meeting tonight. So we've followed along with our timeline with respect to where we are in the process. A little background again is looking at our previous dashboard, which in our new dashboard, we have honored the work that has taken place from our previous strategic planning committee, so that all that work did not go by the wayside. But our new work, we created the new vision and mission and goals for our district. Specifically, tonight's work is going to focus on the 4 goals that are at the bottom. And for those of you that noticed walking in, we have some chart paper that's posted around the room that we're going to be working on very shortly. I apologize for all board members who thought we'd be walking into a workshop approach tonight with the desks and tables kind of in a different pattern. But what we decided to do, just because of the microphone cords and from the being clean and making sure that people, especially people that might have just had some foot surgery, aren't tripping over cords, we wanted to make sure everybody was safe. So we're going to put the work around the U shape tonight. What we're going to show you right now is Mr. Ron Wales, who is our secondary curriculum supervisor. About a month or so ago, presented to the school board in a committee work to give us the background to the vision, mission, goal work. This is a very important video because what we wanted to do is, a few of us have seen it. What we're asking for you to do is see it. It's about a 10-minute video, so we'll ask you to watch all of it. What we want to do after tonight's meeting is get this video posted on our website so that our community members have access to the work and the background to what has taken place to this point. So at this point, if my technology does not malfunction, I'm going to show you the video. And this was done, by the way, at our high school with Bill Charkaski's team. So it was done by students, which again is a super celebration.
Ron Wales, and I am the curriculum supervisor for secondary education. I'm here to talk to you about vision, what it is we are and what it is we want to be. A vision takes an organization or a school district's ideology, our values, our sense of purpose, and turns it into an image of the future. It answers the question, what we are trying to become. If you look at large organizations or any type of organization that's functioning properly, they would have an idea of what it is they are reaching for. Something that is large, something that is aspirational, something that speaks to how they perceive themselves and their own growth and where they want to reach. For example, if you look at a company like Amazon, their vision is huge. They want to be Earth's most customer-centric company, where customers can find and discover anything they might want to buy online. Now that is a large vision. And as an educational institution, we should be just as far-reaching and just as aspirational. Vision is about the future. It's not about what we are, it's about what we want to be, where we see ourselves going. It's a mental image that speaks to the rest of the world and to ourselves about what it is we're striving for. Currently, we have a Boyertown dashboard, which is a statement about who we are, what our values are, and how we want to measure our growth towards what we want to be. If you look at the Boyertown dashboard, what you see on it is a mission statement, you see priority areas, you see success metrics or ways to measure how we're achieving those priorities, and you see our core values. Over the last few months, the administration and the board have been looking carefully at what our dashboard actually actually says and how we are achieving what we say we are meant to be and meant to grow towards. We ran into a problem right away. We realized we don't have a vision statement. We didn't have a clearly articulated statement that says what we are trying to reach for, who we inevitably are trying to be as we strive towards future growth. So when you look at our dashboard, we realize we don't have a vision statement. We do have a mission statement. That mission statement was to enable all students to succeed in a changing world. However, even our mission statement, when we look closely at it, it didn't correspond to the types of mission statements you see in other districts. Mission statements, when you look carefully at them and compare them to what other robust mission statements say, are supposed to have 4 criteria by which to judge them. One of those criteria is the explanation of purpose. It explains the need that the district fulfills and also for whom that need is being fulfilled. It also says how that need is going to be fulfilled. And when we look carefully at our mission statement, some of those criteria were missing. So we had to ask ourselves, if we don't have a vision statement and we don't have the criteria of a mission statement, how are we supposed to guide ourselves in the challenging times that we are currently in and that may lie ahead? What we decided is that we wanted to have both. We wanted to have a clearly articulated vision statement and a clearly articulated mission statement. That, according to what those particular statements are supposed to do, fulfills the criteria. They are all necessary. When we look at the dashboard as a statement of purpose for why we are here and what we're trying to achieve, we need our values to be clear. We need a vision and mission statement. We need goals. And beyond that, we need strategies and ways to measure how we're achieving our goals. Moving forward, the Boyertown Area School District has proposed and accepted a clearly articulated vision statement, mission statement, goals, and we are in the process of articulating strategies and metrics of success to show how we're reaching those goals. Why is this necessary now? Some people would say that the vision, the mission, and the goals are kind of, these esoteric statements, these statements that really are kind of theoretical but have no practical application. But I would argue that the vision and mission help guide us, particularly in times of trouble. They help us perceive who we want to be so that when decisions have to be made, it gives us a clear way of evaluating the effectiveness of the actual decision we've made, and it helps us hold to our integrity of who we want to be. So, some vision statement recommendations that we came up with was to take the existing mission statement language that we all appreciated and thought was very well thought out, and put that language towards a vision statement. This is going to honor the past work that has been done and not take and throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater. We also wanted to provide to that statement a little bit more ambition and character to show who we are as Boyertown in a very unique and individual way. And we also wanted it to focus on the community, bringing us together that's directly aligned with the One Boyertown movement. So what we came up with, that our vision is to cultivate an exceptional, innovative learning community that enables all students to succeed in a changing world. We kept the old language of enables all students to succeed in a changing world. We simply added the aspirations of being exceptional, the characteristic of being innovative, and the language to show that we are all one learning community. Our mission statement that we revised, we wanted to revise it with the 4 criteria in mind. Who are these needs being fulfilled for? What is the purpose of our organization? What need are we fulfilling, and how those needs will be met? So by those 4 criteria, we wanted to create and to judge our mission statement. And this is what we came up with. For all students to be future ready, by meeting or exceeding established goals, the Boyertown Area School District will implement coordinated, articulated curricula and provide personalized, planned instruction aligned with Pennsylvania academic standards. That new mission statement answers those 4 criteria and speaks to who we want to be and how we're going to achieve our vision. As we move forward with a new vision and a new mission statement, we started to look at our priorities as well. When we took a look at the dashboard and we saw the priority areas and the metrics of success, we realized there were a couple issues. One, the priorities are topics, not necessarily goals. If you look at the language of the priorities that you should see on the screen, they're not saying what we are going to do or what we want to achieve. They're simply topics which we will address. Also, we came across an issue of how these priorities are aligned to the metrics of success. If you look back at the dashboard, you'll notice that the priority areas and the metrics of success are not actually aligned. And so, how do we judge if we're meeting these priorities? And the last challenge, how do we formally monitor and share our progress towards meeting those priority topics? And what should be goals? Without those metrics of success aligned to those priority areas and a formalized mechanism, we don't actually know if we're growing towards any goal or achieving our vision. So we wanted to address that as well. What we decided to do was to make two documents. One would be our long-standing guiding dashboard that would have our values, our vision, our mission, and our goals. The other document would be more frequently monitored, updated, and would be an organic living document that would look at those metrics of success and speak to what level we were at in achieving the goals. So when you look at the priorities that we had, such as responsible and effective use of resources, we decided to recraft them a little bit so that they actually sounded like goals. So a new goal statement for that particular priority would be to ensure responsible and data-informed use of resources. Another example is where we had the priority effective communication and collaboration among stakeholders. We now say we are here to foster open communication, active involvement, and purposeful collaboration among all members of the Boyertown Area School District learning community, which is language, by the way, we wanted within our vision. The values we didn't touch. The values we kept the same. And we kept them the same because those are the values of Boyertown. And they are long-standing and not nearly as changing as the mission or even the vision of a school district. So what we had before becomes a simplified version of what we have now. This is the new dashboard for the Boyertown Area School District. Simplified, yet some powerful additions. It has the One Boyertown logo on the bottom. It has the values of the Boyertown community elevated to the top. It has the new vision, the new mission, and the restatement of goals. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. I hope you can appreciate the time that was put into this and the many collaborators that gave us feedback along the way. And I hope we can all appreciate the new vision, the new mission, and these new articulated goals. Thank you for your time.
So like I spoke before we shared the video, what we would like to do is put this video on our website with our new work, and as we move forward and as we continue with our work from the school board perspective in our committee, we are going to continue working on some of the same topics, and the presentation will help guide us in that process. I'm going to, oh, go ahead.
One is I'd like to, again, thank the team. One of this was a part of also the board's comment about how we're going to start promoting this. And one of the things is in 10 minutes, they captured months worth of work. So the few people externally who I shared it with, and one was a university staff member, said it was pretty clear to them, where we started and how we got here to what the current document looks like. So it will also be part of what's going to be starting to be pushed out, not only just on our website, but for Allison and other venues and other opportunities. But more importantly, as staff want to know what changed and how and why, it summarizes it in 10 minutes. And that's, I think, important for people to know what happened, who may be familiar with what was in the past, even though when talking to a number of people, they really weren't familiar with the current dashboard. So it'll help plug that hole that was brought up as a concern about being able to explain what this evolution of over a few months happened. And really, I think it did a good job in capturing it in 10 minutes. in a nutshell.
Thank you, Dr. Benton. So at our last meeting on September 3rd, we had, as we look at our classroom instructional, what is effective classroom instructional practices, we typically start off with our ICANN statements about what we're able to do. In our last workshop, we identified the roles and responsibilities of the school board. We created an initial understanding of the accountability of where our school board is on the work that we're working on. And our final piece was, if you remember, you completed a self-assessment, a survey, to determine the degree in which the school board achieved a set of elements towards establishing measures of accountability to support overall student growth and achievement. So believe it or not, in our last workshop, we pretty much completed all of that work, and we're going to show some of the data tonight. Our goal for tonight is I can create a criterion matrix for the school board that will be an evaluative tool to assess whether the school board has achieved their 4 goals. And as you look around, which Mr. Wales had made reference to, we have goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, and goal 4, and those are the 4 goals that used to be the statements on our previous dashboard that have been turned into goals. Again, I'm going to kind of cycle through this so we can get to the work. This is all back to reference points from the Key Work of School Boards guidebook from NSBA. So the statements are right in there, and for those of you that have hard copies of the presentation, this information has not changed from the last meeting. I don't want to go through and read all of those. If you remember, back to our work, seems like so long ago, we completed a survey and you answered questions. If you remember, believe it or not, we have a Boyertown Area School District School Board. Let me go into in the wrong Google account here. Boyertown Area School District Google Classroom. And if you remember our work, we posted information that was put into the Google Classroom for you to access at a different point. I'm sure many of you have gone back and visited numerous times since September 3rd to review the data from the previous meeting. One of the key components that Mr. Wales made reference to is the cycle of events that are happening. We have our dashboard. But we also have our action planning template, which is a critical part of how each and every member of the professional community of the Boyertown Area School District, from the building principals, administration, to Boyertown Cabinet, which we, this past Thursday, Dr. Bedden, right? We presented our own template of what our action planning is going to look like. So everybody is working from the same template of their action planning goals and strategies that they'll be working on for this year. So we decided to continue this work with the school board to mirror the work in the school district. I showed you at the last meeting the work that has already taken place with respect to, here's Colbrookdale Elementary School, for instance. This is the action planning template. We met in August. This is the work that they did. We are asking each building to have an English language arts action plan goal, a math action plan goal, as well as a social emotional, a cultural goal in their buildings. Again, this is just an example to show what it looks like and how we are going to be working towards this as a school board for this upcoming school year. One element that I know Dr. Bedden wants to point out is he brought a handout to you with respect to how are we holding ourselves accountable to whether or not we're making success or working towards success in these particular areas. Each member of our administrative team that's responsible for a building will be reporting out 3 times. There will be a report out at the end of October, at the end of January, and also in April. And what we would like to do is have these actual documents be public documents on the web pages for each individual building. So if a community member wants to go on and see some of the specific areas that the building is focused on and the targets, they'll be able to see the goals. And not only will they be able to see the goals, they'll be able to see the strategies and action items, the metrics of success, and also what the quarterly targets are. So I know Dr. Bedden wants to talk about the Future Ready Index.
So one of the questions that was raised by the board is how do we also communicate how the district as a whole is performing? And one of the general responses I gave to you is that as a district, again, one Boyertown, it's the work that happens, that we oversee to make sure happens at the school level. So what you have is a one-pager in front of you that kind of gives you an overview of what happens in the Future Ready Index. The reason we chose the Future Ready Index is, one, is that's a state report card on all school districts. So we were like, why do we need to reinvent the wheel? It will actually allow us to compare, whether it be the Berks County, Montgomery County, any school district in the state, how we're doing as a district, at least for our schools. What you see in front of you is the Future Ready Index is divided into three main categories. The first one, as you see, is the state assessment measures, which really gets to the core of how our students are doing on the PSSA and the Keystone exam. But then you have what you call on-track measures, which will get to if you have English language learners in your school, chronic absenteeism, where in this case, what percent of kids are coming to school, and then early indicators of success, which is about 3rd and 7th grade, and then of course college and career measures. And again, the other strength of this, choosing the Future Ready Index, it gives really a focus on all the measures that we believe are important about academics, attendance, which is also a work and life ready habit. It gets to the growth expectation that we're talking about, and it gets to eventually the ultimate goal of the college and career readiness expectation that the state has laid out. What you will find in parentheses next to each area that has a state benchmark right now is what that benchmark is for 2030 for the state. That is not ours. Okay. What you will eventually be getting from us is how do we measure the district's success in those areas. So for example, we are currently looking at what you see on the bottom is that we will establish district performance standards in a report card using the initial Future Ready Index scores from the 2018-2019 school year, because that's the first year it came out. So that's our baseline data. We're going to take that data and look at how we're currently performing compared to the state goal and make our expectations. So for instance, if we're already under the state goal, then we may have a standard that we want to meet or exceed the state goal. But if we're doing better than the state goal, the standard may be for us to either continue or do better than what we're doing, because we don't want to make the goal lower than what we already are. And with that in mind, then we will talk about, for a district report card, how many of our schools are actually meeting that standard once it's adopted. So for example, if we said that we wanted, and we know math has been a challenge across the state and across the nation. So right now the state goal for 2030 for math and Algebra 1 is 81.1%. Well, that could be our standard if we're below it. But if we're already above it, say we were 84.5, but we're not going to make that the standard. We may say 85% or better, and then we report to the board for the district report card. The example is 100% of our schools would be a blue coding if 100% of the schools were meeting that standard. Green may be the number of schools who are meeting that 85%. And red would be if we did not have that green mark and say it was 89% of the schools only meeting it. So we will establish benchmarks for, and we're going to, instead of going red, yellow, green, we're going to mirror the state's color coding of blue, green, and red to cut out on the confusion for the board. So for example, for us to hit blue, it means 100% of our schools are hitting that standard that we will present to you all at a later date. For us to hit a green, it may be that we say 90% of the schools must be, or better, must be hitting that standard for us to say that we're hitting a green target. And then if it was less than 90%, we'd be in red. So you get a color-coded scorecard to be able to see quickly how we are doing as a district, and then you're able to drill down, which is already available to the public. Each individual school already gets a blue, green, red from the state. They just don't publish one for the district level, so we have to create that and roll it up. So the curriculum supervisors will be looking at the data from the 2018-2019, compare that to the state standard and where we are, and where there is no state standard. So for example, the state has not articulated a standard for early indicators for success right now. They have not indicated a standard for what percent of the students are advanced rating. But if we look at ours and see that the state average is 20%, but we're only at 16%, then it would make sense that we would probably make our standard 20% or better, so that we are meeting or exceeding if we're already below that standard. That just gives you some framework or concept to answer the question then how we're going to report out about how the district as a whole is doing, which is really rolling up the school's performance to a district report card. So we're all, again, working in concert to meet a standard together as 10 schools, one Boyertown. But those standards will be presented to you at another meeting of what we recommend. Once the team goes through their data analysis and sends it to me, and then once we're satisfied, we'll bring it to the board for y'all to say, yep, we like it, or we want you to tweak this. And that'll become our scorecard to communicate to the public. And it cuts out work for us because the state is the one who's going to be populating a lot of this data already.
An excellent point, and just to also reiterate, we're at the mercy of the state's reporting timeline. So the rumors out there are that the state data from last year's assessments will be released sometime October, November. Typically, in my years in the profession, it's usually the latter than the sooner. So the thought will be sometime probably November-ish is when the new Future Ready Index will be out there from last year's data. So that's when we'll have updated information to kind of move forward.
The bad news is it's slow. The good news is it'll hit before budget time. So again, trying to use this information also to inform where you're going to spend your money. Also, if we're not doing well somewhere, here's what we should be looking at and saying, again, data-driven, informed decisions about resources. And so we're talking about probably a conversation about an annual state of the district that we're probably thinking more January because, we think it should come in October, November. We never know. So we want to build in a buffer for time to actually put the stuff together to have it ready for maybe a January dialogue that goes public every year to the community.
So going back to our survey results, and I had put this in the weekly update from last week, but I wanted to start our conversation for tonight just to review, as Dr. Bedden made reference to, what is the board's perspective with respect to how we are reporting on our annual progress? How are we looking at our achievement results to really help be data-driven decision making with respect to making a lot of decisions that the school board makes? So there are no names associated with this, and there were 7 respondees from the last time that we had met. So I thought it'd be interesting just to look at it globally as a board. I'll just go through each question. We'll look at the data quickly. The end result is actually, if you have purple, that means that one board member answered they don't know or they're unsure. If it's green, it's something that we're beginning to achieve. If it's orange, we've partially achieved it. If it's red, we mostly achieved it. And if it's blue, you feel that we've fully achieved it. So I think there's really good information here when we look at the 10 or so questions. So the first question is, our district publishes an annual report of progress. Like Dr. Bedden stated, the goal moving forward is that we reciprocate the information that the state gives us through the Future Ready Index, that we'll be able to report our annual progress. The second question was about our annual report includes data on student achievement and district performance related to district goals and standards. A little more of a scattered response from the board members. Go ahead.
Just an observation there.
Please chime in.
I remember taking the survey and thinking, if you said that we don't really have a comprehensive annual report, then a lot of the other questions become moot. So I thought it might be interesting at some point to discuss these questions and say what we do see and when we do see it, because we've seen elements of a lot of these things, but not in a comprehensive or a well-scheduled schedule time frame.
There has been a compilation of data over the years out of the Office of Teaching and Learning. The Office of Teaching and Learning has transitioned about 3 or 4 different people over the course of the past so many years, but the data behind the scenes has stayed pretty consistent. And Becky Thomas, who was an administrative assistant in the office, was kind of the collector of everything. She has since left the district recently, and we had collected a wealth of information, but the ability to really process out the information and look at it, I think, to Dr. Bedden's point, is a little compromised because it's a lot to look at and it gives you almost too much data. And what is the purpose of collecting what you're collecting? So I couldn't agree with you more. And trying to maintain consistency between what we report out and what the state holds us accountable to. I think, I don't want to say less is better, but more deeper data with respect to where we are and staying consistent across all means, I think, is a critical element.
Mr. Stout?
Yes.
And I want to be clear to people who may be watching this later, there's a lot more than what we would report that we still do. The issue becomes what we report. We want it to be meaningful. And understanding of, and how do you compare it to something else. So like you have the comprehensive plan, well, that's a lot of stuff. And so I think, Mr. Lewis, your point was well taken. Why you see that scattered response is there have been various times pieces, but I'm not sure people would recognize those as some type of parts of an annual report,
right,
that we didn't package it in a way. So we're trying to clearly define, here's what the annual report will look like. It doesn't mean we're going to stop those other things that we monitor and do, but we need to be able to say public facing, here's how we're doing, and we decided to make sure we can do something so we can clearly articulate too, what is our measure of success if you ever get to a conversation of who's our peer group? Who do we aspire to be? And again, from an efficient and effective standpoint, why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
Because this is what the state's going to put out when they use Future Ready about how you're doing as a school district also.
And in reality, like the next question makes reference to, the format of a report is consistent from year to year. To Mr. Lewis's point, it includes data from previous years. If you look at the school board's perspective, is that we're either beginning to achieve or partially achieved. So when I look at data like that, we are not doing an effective job as our Office of Teaching and Learning to help give you the information to help you make decisions or understand the status of the district at a particular time.
However, we also know that the various metrics have changed over the last few years, so it's been a little bit of a moving target.
That is true.
And to Dr. Bedden's point, the Future Ready Index, at least maybe that'll stick around for a while
10
in its
years,
current
though.
format.
Yeah.
They're saying 2030, so maybe 10 years.
The hope will be, they are expanding it and they're adding new categories to it, so that potentially is a positive piece. So the next question is, we compare our data with data from other districts that are similar to ours. And if you really look at this response, I think this is the most broad scattering of information. So do we really take our information and share it with neighboring school districts? Now, to Dr. Bedden's point about the Future Ready Index, Dr. Bedden and I and a few members of the Office of Teaching and Learning were in it today, last year's Future Ready Index, and there is the ability within the Future Ready Index, I could compare Colebrookdale Elementary School with Whitfield Elementary School in the Wilson School District, with an elementary school in Upper Perk, and you literally click a box and it pulls a compilation together. So with this new tool that we're trying to make a good resource for our district as well as our community members, you have the ability to compare data between districts. We examine our data by gender, race, socioeconomic status to measure the success of all students. Again, kind of a scattering of information from the school board's perspective.
Future Ready allows you to do that.
And Future Ready allows you to drill down into those various areas. We use our student achievement data to make decisions and establish district priorities. I believe that is one of the things we are going to focus on with this workshop, but again, a scattering of information from school board members.
By the way, sorry.
Go ahead.
The survey doesn't offer you the answer no or not achieved at all.
Don't know,
It skips right to
unsure.
don't know or unsure, which is also kind of awkward as a respondent.
Right, the key work of School Board's Guidebook Editors, because it is taken right out of the nsba.org. This is not a Mr. Stout creation. I will like to make that as a public comment, get that for the record. I agree with you. And really, any survey should not have a middle. You should only have an even number if you really want to get, because then you have to commit to one side or the other. We communicate to the public how our decisions are linked to student achievement data. A little more of a scattering, but more consistent in only 3 particular areas. The second last one is principals and teachers use student achievement data to make decisions and set instructional priorities. A lot more certainty about that because it's more drilled down to the buildings themselves would be my quick opinion of that response. We use our student achievement data plan staff development and organize. I know it should say professional learning, Dr. Barrow, so again. And to recognize and reward teacher performance. And finally, we tie evaluations of staff and ourselves as board members to student achievement results. And by looking at using the matrix that we're going to work on very shortly to create some goals for the school board, the hope is as we move forward that you have a tool in front of you to at least mirror some of the work and the background to what our buildings and our administration are using throughout the district.
Now,
Yes.
so this is a great survey, and it should be able to be repeatable maybe every year or so to see if we're making progress, right?
We have created in a Google form, so it's in the Google Classroom, so we can actually I can clear the data at any time. I can resave it in a new name to pull it up so we can do it for future school boards. Yep, absolutely. And the hope would be as we go through all this work, like Dr. Bed made reference to, that we do put some strategies in place to help have more accountability to some of these results. We're getting into the fun stuff. This was also in your packet for the past couple weeks, but this is the newly created school board action plan template. Our goal tonight is we're going to work around the room and we are potentially going to create at least one goal that we're going to be looking at from a school board perspective, how to support the school district to achieve some of the aforementioned areas. This is specifically what we're going to be focusing on, a goal, a potential strategy action item, and also how we're going to measure that. We decided, I think one of the board members at our September 3rd meeting had discussed, can we potentially see some strategies, goals, action items that are from other school districts? So in the past weekly updates, I provided a couple links to some neighboring districts. I did want to articulate that I can't tell you whether they're successful school districts with respect to their goals, but they were examples of goals. So I wanted to make sure that I reiterated that in my writing. But through collaboration with Dr. Bedden, we wanted to provide you with some examples of what goals might be that the school board might want to work towards. We provided 4 of them for you tonight. I'm not going to, I'll read the goal on each of the 4 slides because I want to make sure we get to our goal work. But they are just examples of what might be a great way to think about how you might utilize your school board and school board members for support for the school district. The first one is to offer high quality student programming so that graduates are prepared to compete in a global society. There are some of the action items that are listed beneath there, how that might happen from a school board perspective. A goal to provide high-quality, effective teachers and administrators. Again, some of the action items or example actions that could be a part of that process. Another goal might be to provide high-quality, effective. I did the same one twice, my apologies. A goal, the board committed to excellence in education and aware of its responsibilities. Again, what kind of example actions could be beneath that? So we are at the point where we are going to get up. Sorry, Mrs. Denon. We'll get you around the corner. But what we're going to do is we're going to count off by 4, and we're going to spend about 5 to 7 minutes at each chart paper. On each chart paper, goal number 1 on our dashboard is to ensure responsible and data-informed use of resources. Over here is goal number 2, to provide a positive, safe, and healthy learning environment. Over here is goal number 3, to offer research-based, personalized, and growth-oriented learning opportunities for all members of the Boyertown Area School District learning community. And finally, the last one is to foster communication, active involvement, and purposeful collaboration among all members of the Boyertown Area School District learning community. What we're going to have you do, we have a rotation of 4 different goal areas throughout the room. You're going to spend approximately 5 minutes at each goal station. You're going to brainstorm ideas, and we have this in boldface letters underlined, how the school board can work collaboratively to support this goal. It can be a word, it can be a statement, it can be anything, it could be a smiley face. If there's some sort of non-linguistic representation of what you might feel for that particular area, but it's important that we do a brainstorm. We're going to document your ideas on the chart paper. When the timer's done, and Dr. O'Bara is going to do a wonderful job of keeping time for us tonight, you're going to move to the next chart and start to document your ideas in the new goal area. So let's just say I'm in goal number 1 and I move to goal number 2, and Mrs. Denon has already written the goal or the idea that I thought I wanted to put. I'm just going to put a star next to that. So we're not going to rewrite the same information more than one time. And finally, after we go back and we have been able to document how the school board helps to support each one of these goal areas, we're going to come back to our seats and we're going to do an official called gallery walk. So what we're going to do is look at the information that has been compiled on each goal to help come together and hopefully move towards creating, looking at our district goals to create our goal for our school board so that we can use the same matrix that we have used with our individual buildings.
Gotcha.
Is everybody? Any questions? Okay, so Mrs. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, you're 1. Good. I was going to say, can you please start counting off? If we get this part done, that's probably one of the most complicated things. Yes.
I think that would be 3.
Okay. Dr. Ben, are you going to jot? Nope.
4.
5.
No, 1.
Oh, you're 1. I'm sorry. Yeah, 1. See, I'm goofing it up. 1, 5. Yeah, Mrs. Tiroff is 5. That 1. Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, I guess that makes me 2.
You 2? Yep. 3? Yep. 4. All right. So if you are going to go to the particular chart where your number represents, and we're going to start the timer. And remember, we're writing down an individual word, an individual statement, whatever you need to do. And I believe there are markers right underneath the chart paper. Great idea, Mrs. Yusavage.
We go to the goal that our number is.
Goal where your number is, yes.
Right.
I asked him to put that sign up.
We need to have a handicap parking space here.
There are some down the floor.
Oh, markers? Okay.
All right.
All right. But what we want to do is just report out on each goal. There's a lot of information on each of our chart paper. I think it's super exciting when you really think about, it seemed like a daunting task to really think about reporting out on the core goals, but the Office of Teaching and Learning often does gallery walks and techniques like this to compile information from our administrative team, our teachers. And you're kind of amazed at how much you get together in a very short period of time. So what we'll ask you to do is kind of just glance over the data that's on your specific goal. And what I might ask you to do is look at 2 things. One data point that really pops out to you as something you feel is very compelling. It might be one that might have multiple stars, check marks, whatever by it. And then another one that perhaps you see as a trend or a thread that might go between all 4 goal areas. Because I might speculate that you might be surprised that there is an unintentional part of this that we have a similar thought process with respect to all 4 goals when it comes to the school board support. So, Mr. Lewis, we are going to ask you to report out first. Ultimately, in the end, we are going to try to articulate at least one goal that we're going to put on the school board's matrix. As you can see projected on the top, is we're going to have the goal, and then what kinds of areas and what kinds of things can we do from the school board's perspective to kind of hold ourselves accountable for this during the course of the year. So, Mr. Lewis.
Okay, so if the people that actually wrote this want to clarify, feel free to jump in. So the first one was provide resources and funding to support data collection, and this will differ by school. Make and support decisions per discussion made based on the data. So you want to make your decisions based on the data. Second group added, they want to clearly articulate to administration the data necessary to make decisions and emphasize well in advance. All board members independently review provided data, materials, information prior to decision points, prior to voting meetings. So it's a matter of preparation. Articulate comfort, satisfaction, dissatisfaction with data provided ahead of meetings. Again, preparation. Then we added a little more specific. We added the notion that with respect to certain budget financial performance issues, we focused tonight a lot on the PA Ready Index and the scholastics. Not completely. I know PA Ready is more than that, but we were trying to make the point that we'd like to support or request some level of improved reporting, especially on more internal data, less scholastic, more financial. We asked repeatedly for things like how we're doing against our budget year to date. We often don't really know how we're doing during the year. So some of that reporting we think we should look for and support and request. We added, this is not very readable, and I like these reports to be on a consistent frequency, consistent formatting, even where these files can be retrieved, because one of the things we find now is that our entire internal board reporting is based on the date of a meeting, on the title of a meeting. We were talking about the Office of Teaching and Learning, the scholastic reporting and how that changed over the years. I bet you I couldn't find 2 files with the same name on it and maybe just a different date. So if I try to look back to these things, it's very hard to find. So we think that that's one of the things that could be improved upon. And then something board members that we could actually do and not rely on administration is, I called it, plus the other PDE data that wouldn't be in the PA Ready Index. Things like we have all the comparative data on staffing levels and education levels and salaries and things that's provided by the PDE at least once a year, right? Pretty much updated. And that's something that even board members could help assemble. Wouldn't even rely on administration necessarily. So, sorry.
No, perfect. Does
Too
anybody?
much information.
No, that's great. Does anybody have any information they'd like to add to goal number 1 or thoughts on goal number 1? Great presentation. Goal number 2.
Okay, there was a few here that really stood out with a lot of stars and checks. Ensure social emotional learning remains I think it's distinct element of long-term dollars, capital plans and budgets. So that got a lot of play in there. Keep that in the forefront. Continue to support and or introduce subject matter experts to keep fresh, for the staff as far as professional learning, and I would even add for the board. So those were the ones that really stood out. This one here, support, but I think it's more set aside dollars or allocate physical safety and healthy environment for students and staff. So if we're going to do that, we have to allocate the dollars, be it in capital projects or whatever it may be, to make sure that that stays front and center. An example would be a lot of what we've done for school safety, the last year and a half of that, and continue to do.
Proactively.
Right, proactively, get ahead of it, so we're not, oh, we should have done this like, 3 years ago. This one got a couple stars as well, evaluate physical and active learning programs, or physical activity and active learning programs, so what's the evaluation process for that? Have that on the front and center for the board. Provide recognition to dedicate, and I think this was actually in one of the board, responsibilities, but basically set up something for recognition to dedicated staff, for example, teacher or staff person of the month, maybe even student of the month or something like that.
Any other thoughts about goal 2? Okay, thank you so much. Goal number 3.
So, my partner and I got to this one last, and there were some good ideas already put on here, so we didn't have a whole lot to add. But we did like some of these. So the one that we did add was that any of the things below would require resources and staffing to appropriately address those items. So the goal itself, sorry, I should start with that, to offer research-based, personalized, and growth-oriented learning opportunities for all members of the BASD learning community. So again, providing resources and appropriate staffing was the one that we added to that. Targets set and monitored for all students on PSSA and Keystone exams. That one received a star, so 2 stars. Future Ready Index, apply. So I guess looking at those metrics and actually applying and measuring our goals and how we're succeeding or falling short. Support staff development opportunities aligned by goals and data. Provide community learning events. Provide parents, or I guess guardians or anyone supporting students with tools to help their children learn and succeed. And that one, these 2 received stars as well. Evolve toward personalized learning by developing learning plans for groups. And if I had to say what stood out, I really think the targets and monitoring stands out, and providing resources outside the classroom, because there's plenty of learning that extends beyond just the day in the class.
Excellent. Great job. Any other points to add to goal number 3? Okay, Mr. Savage, last but not least.
Goal number 4 is to foster open communication, active involvement, and purposeful collaboration among all members of the BASD learning community. So once I've had a couple of check marks for opportunities for professional board development, so we should all be learning ourselves. And debate, discuss, and listen to the issues. Don't debate the people, and support successful implementation of board decisions after the votes. So those both got multiple stars and check marks. Some of the other things that were on here, we're having a yearly retreat, but within our budget tax dollars. Access and review our materials prior to board meetings, so I think that relates to some over there around preparation. Full attendance at board training, and someone pointed out that that is now the law, that we must be taking training. And the open workshop, informal Q&A, and my team member and I thought they meant with the community,
Yes.
for the community. And similar informative sessions like basics of finance, also for the community. Okay, yeah, so we checked those as well, we thought they were a good idea. And then there was also the development of communication plans, which is probably a broader idea than just some of these things.
Any other thoughts on goal number 4? Yes.
I added, not unlike a nonprofit board, board members, I was trying to think of what board members can do. And so one of the things can do, I think, to help network with community and business leaders, and with the ultimate purpose of doing things like developing more internships or getting more career shadowing days, things like that. I think that's something that many board members can help with through connections in industry and companies and whatever, so I
Sorry,
think.
Mr. Lewis, I went out of order and then I skipped out.
We ran out of room when we shoved that in there.
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know, this one's got a lot of good things on it. I think the one that we were talking about is the, you know, what's the communication plan? Because as we set direction or give direction to the administration, that's all well and good. At the end of the day, is it really getting down from the boardroom to the classroom? So you could almost pick any topic. A great one would be our mission and goals. So what's the communication plan then? Integrate that, and we saw the video as a great, you know, idea there. But, you know, whether it's administrative regulations, okay, that direction, let's use the administrative regulations of the SBA. All right, what's the plan on how to implement that? I understand it's a very big document, so it can't all be done at once, so it might be a 3-year deployment plan. That's okay. So, and that way, that can ensure that what the direction that we're setting to get these goals is indeed being implemented. It might be in 6 months, it might be in 3 years, I don't know.
Excellent. Any other thoughts about goal number 4? All right, so what we're going to do as kind of our last point for the evening for our work today is to really think about, in the September 3rd session, we talked about how many goals would we potentially create as a school board to help support the district as a whole. I would say if we can create at least one goal tonight to walk away with, that would be something that we can put into our action planning template so that we have the ability to have a focal point to come back to. We as a school entity for our buildings are asking for 3 data point times. The end of October is the first data point time, the end of January is the second data point time, and the end of April is the third data point time. So if we could potentially adhere to that from a school board perspective as we move forward, we could have perhaps this committee meeting would be our touch point, perhaps the school board voting meeting might be a touch point, just to see how we're going and making progress towards achieving that specific goal. So what I'll ask everyone, and I spoke a little bit in some of our small goal groups, is, and I predicted what was potentially going to happen. It could be very comprehensive to create individual goals to meet all these needs. But what I ask you to do is, we've reported out on all 4 goals. Do you see a trend? Do you see a thread that goes between all 4 goals that might be a very key focal area to start from a goal planning process for the school board? What is one particular area? Mr. Elsier talked about communication. Is it potentially that communication is where the goal wants to create, the board wants to create a goal working towards monitoring themselves over the course of the school year? I just give that as an example. Is there anything that anyone sees to kind of start, and then Dr. Obero is going to kind of jot down some ideas about how we can kind of formulate that into a specific action item.
I think one thing that goes across is the data-driven decision. So all of these should be based on data-driven decision making. So maybe some sort of a goal that says request and utilize data to make decisions to support the goals of this district.
Okay. Well, and I agree with you, I heard data-driven decisions. I heard the timing of some of the data acquisition to help support that. So, you know, is there a way to compile that into a specific measurable kind of area to help support the school board supporting the school? So data-driven decisions and the acquisition of the data.
And the acquisition, the timely acquisition of the data, and then, which would kind of be on the administration to give us the correct data and timely manner, so we have time to look at it. But then, I think we also have to put it on ourselves that we also are going to access, read, understand,
as individual board members, what was over there, Dave, you said something about, there was a couple of them that kept saying the same thing about,
Preparation.
Preparation,
The common
yeah.
theme,
Yeah.
preparation.
So I don't know how you can cut those words down, but that seems to, that seems to come out.
Well, it's better than what was cut out.
Well,
You can see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I wonder if, because we know, with some of this, we know when we get it, that we build a plan around acquiring and analyzing data to make specific decisions, like an annual plan that we can then repeat every year. It feels like we think differently every year. Just looking at me like.
I don't think that's the first time for that.
Well, what I'm thinking is, if we don't get the academic data until November, then we plan for in December, we're gonna spend a lot of time analyzing that data and making decisions. And we get the financial data, or we discuss it at a certain time, and that's when we spend our time.
Are you referring to the analog to the budget timeline, for example? So-
Yeah.
So you have timelines for some of the other key things
Yeah.
that you do during the year, as opposed to just when you have your budget meetings and when the state requires this or that.
And it doesn't mean that you can't use that data throughout the year, but really know when you're gonna get that data and then build your timelines around that and your major decision making.
Right, but I think that's, I agree with you, I just think we're trying to look for maybe a broader goal. So that's why I was saying, timely acquisition of data. So maybe 1 month, all the data we're getting is around student achievement. So we can look to see if we have to provide more resources for maybe more math teachers or whatever. So maybe that takes place in February. And when it comes to, budget planning, maybe that's I'm just throwing this out, I don't know, months, but maybe that's like in November. So I don't know if we need to drill down to specifics, but I think, if you know that we're gonna be talking about, say like a curriculum, and that discussion's gonna be in April, then we don't wanna get all that information the week that we're gonna be having the meeting. So that, I think by just saying timely acquisition of data relevant to board decisions, or something like that.
That works.
Yeah.
We're pretty much saying. the
Yeah,
same.
exactly, yeah.
What's your metric for success?
Right.
Absolutely.
Merge. So, under the basic premise,
No,
No.
that's, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Permanent marker.
No, he's good with that one. Show him the ones.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Is everybody know what it is?
Specific, measurable.
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic. And you could take just to set yourself up for success. You actually could say that you're gonna get it, to do this first thing, is commit to dedicating the December meeting to actually look at all the data from the Future Ready Index.
Okay, so it could be that specific.
It can be.
Yeah, because you really
Okay,
want
why
to.
do we want to do that?
Well, I think you have the broad formation of data-driven decisions, just because this is new. Set yourself up for success to get it going, but that will inform you a lot. When you look at all those tenants there, that's also kicking off getting knowledge of how our kids doing.
Right.
And then what are we spending our money on,
Mhm.
right, before you get into the real height of the nitty-gritty of, so, I mean, I was listening to both of you, and I think, if we just start there, just with that one big one and dedicating time to analyze that, because that's also gonna come on the heels of also the program of studies. Right?
Yeah.
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 So do those back to back, you're gonna be making informed decisions using this format. That is very specific, the data you know,
Keep moving.
yeah. It's attainable for you to dedicate the time to do that, and put it on your calendar, it's realistic, and it's time bound. You're saying you're gonna do it in December.
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
But it's gonna give you the framework for Scholastic, but tie it to his point of, still gotta talk about money. In his grand scheme of things. And it gets to what we've been trying to say, we're gonna move to conversations about, because there are tough choices that have to be made, so we can say we're not gonna do X next year. But you've already had a look at it. And I say December too, because, that's really the bulk of whoever's sitting on the board anyway. Correct?
Right.
So it jumpstarts them to understand how are we doing as a district and how our kids are doing. It gives it, putting a snapshot and profile and a framework that can be, someone talked about how to be consistent year to year. And it's supposed to be here. We also pick, because to your point, 2030, they're saying they're not gonna change anytime soon anyway. They're gonna add pieces to it. So that's just one suggestion to kind of get us jump-started and still get out of here in 2 hours.
Yeah, so I think that's, I like that as a starting point. The other thing, and I think, Mr. Town, you sent us some other school districts goals. So the one that I thought that was pretty simple, that, you know, again, do we need to reinvent the wheel totally? For Peters Township, goal number 1, provide the supports and opportunities necessary to ensure that all Peters Township students are college and career ready. Now, underneath that, you could do some things. And goal number 2, develop and implement a long-range financial plan to ensure fiscal strength and extended facilities life. So I just throw those 2 out.
We're working on it now anyway.
Right. I mean, we're working on that now. So to me, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there for consideration, but maybe kind of take those and build on them. And what Dr. Bennett just went over kind of supports the one about necessary to ensure students are college and career ready.
Yeah,
You know.
you can put that as overarching and then make.
And then
Well,
underneath
the action item on that is doing that.
is doing that, right. So that was very helpful. The other districts, I would tell you, was very impressive, but wow, I mean, it was just like, I ran out of printer ink.
There's
I
a lot of
mean, it's a lot, and,
So,
I didn't think we were ready for that.
this is really,
So if you look at,
Yeah,
to
exactly.
your point, Mr. Elsier, and kind of what Dr. Ben was making reference to, and I apologize for putting it back up here again, but I think if you look at the template that has been created for the buildings, the specific goal would be that overarching, and whether it's the career-ready student per se, whether it's the financial piece, whether it's data-driven decisions, that would be the overarching goal, kind of the umbrella. And then what are the strategy and action items that allow the school board to help support that process? And what are the metrics and how are we defining what that looks like for success? So, and what we did for our buildings and our staff is really looking at what are the professional learning opportunities that are needed? What do we need as a school board to help make some of those decisions? We talked about a thread through all of this was timely acquisition of data. So the opinion of myself might be that the professional learning need, it's a little different for the board. I just kept the same language, but what is needed? Timely data. You can't make a decision unless you have timely data to help support that decision. So that's not something, I say this with a smile, that you necessarily control. You are given the data. To Mr. Lewis's point, what data can you go out and acquire as school board members to help support the process? But you're at the mercy of the data that's given to you. So we need that. You need that. But what's the action item? The action item is to make a decision to help support whatever that might be. So I think if we look at the matrix, the dashboard that we have here, we could easily provide opportunities in each of the areas to help support the process. So we just need to determine what the goal would be for the goals.
So one of the things that the professional learning that is underutilized right now by us, and we get it as part of our membership, I don't know if you know that we have learning modules inside PSBA. And they're all about 15 to 20 minutes. there's one on understanding, assessments, there's one on, finances and all that type of stuff. So you could easily, and there was
And
a
there's
thing
one on-
about, I think two of these talked about, professional learning. Well, that could be identifying the three key things that, because they're like 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, so under the professional learning
Right.
needed, identify what.
You could
they have
actually-
to offer us?
Right,
Right, you
as
could-
an element.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, as another example, it could be that as, professional learning need. I mean, if you tell us it's financial, they have some resources already that are free that we get, understanding the finances. If you tell us it's understanding what does it mean, they have some stuff, and it's not meant to be overly intense for you. So you could identify professional learning need.
Oh.
Yep.
And then in your target, because, the target, you have 4 or 3, you do 4 or 3.
Well, for the buildings, what we decided as a district is to do trimesters.
Okay.
The majority of our reporting information is on a trimesterly basis.
So December, when we get this data, is second?
Well, we're in October.
Yeah.
The buildings have been working on this since the end of the summer, so we're a little late.
Yeah.
Our first reporting point from the district perspective is October 31st. That's only a few weeks away.
So-
But if we shoot for something consistent,
Yeah.
that we target our dates, we can actually document this. So December may be the first one for this group.
So I was thinking October, we could, target that we completed our training module. And then we're ready in December to analyze that data, put that data.
And when so when I heard Mr. LC, read the first one from the district.
Yeah, from Peters Township.
Yeah.
Yeah, goal number 1, provide the supports and opportunities necessary to ensure that all Peters Township students are college and career ready.
Well, in order to do that, you actually could make that argument that your strategy and action item is to do a workshop on future ready and reviewing that data. You could, an action item could be receiving and approving a plan fiscally. So you gotta do those to actually, as part of it. So you could take those things and actually make them a strategy and action item as part of it.
So
And you can actually, if you wanted to have just 3 strategies and action items, just one to support the goal, the third one could be the professional development piece. So to educate yourself about, whatever.
So I think because we're only picking one goal, I like the idea of having, instead of it being data-driven decisions like we were talking about in the beginning, I like the
Or
idea
that could be
of the
an
broad.
action item itself to support that overarching broader one.
Right, I think the goal maybe should be to ensure that students are college and career ready. And then the strategy and the action items could be data-driven decisions, and a couple of others. And then the professional learning needed could be those webinars, modules, in addition to some other. So. But I like the overreaching goal. I think the other ones are a little bit too specific. And I think the strategy and the action items are definitely, we have to put something in there about making data-driven decisions, and the action item could be, I don't know.
So I think what I heard proposed was 3 action items. One was learn what we need to learn. 2 was dedicate time in December to study the data, and 3 was make action data-driven action.
Decision.
Yeah.
For the learn what we need to learn, would that be like collaboratively, we come up with 3, we all take 3 individually, or the board leadership comes up with a couple modules that they think are appropriate?
Well, actually, and this was shared in some communication from Dr. Bedden, but this is already in place for us. So with the change in our committee structure and our meetings, starting at 7 o'clock, the communication was that we would set aside, if needed, time between 6 and 7 for executive sessions and/or board development. And the idea was, on any given Tuesday night when we have a meeting, meeting starts at 7, and maybe at 6 o'clock, we come in and go through one of these modules from PSBA, or 6:30, 15 minutes module, have a little discussion, okay, class over, and then we go to our meeting. And I think that's more, again, when you talk about efficient and effective, you're doing it earlier and doing if we were going to do an executive session, there's time for that. So we're not here at 10 o'clock at night trying to do stuff, and we're doing it when we're fresh. So that's already in place, quite frankly. We could do a module every Tuesday if we chose to. So if anyone has thoughts on topics, shoot me a note or give me a call or whatever, and we could start that, anytime, October, November, just on any given Tuesday, do a little module from PSBA on finance or whatever, policy,
I think they might have even had something about the Future Ready Index and what that was and how it was changing, and so that's just an example of something that they have, and they aren't that long.
So ultimately we can have ideas sent to you, or we'll have board leadership come up with one before the next meeting.
I mean, again, we could, not that we need to do it every Tuesday, I mean, we certainly have that option. I'm just saying.
October 31st.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a couple in this month, we could probably do 2.
So your metrics of success would potentially be if we have the learn what we need to learn, the PSBA learning modules. A metrics of success would be to complete one module by October 31st. Like that could be a specific item that you have, because that's measurable. So did you complete it as a school board? You did. So we, checked that off the list that we were actually able to do that.
It was before by.
Right. And then the next one, right,
The whole
would be
year.
And 8 by.
2 a quarter, 3 a quarter, whatever.
So, I think Dr. Ben's trying to get into to show the modules.
So your goal for us was to come up with one goal tonight?
And we did that.
Yeah.
If you think about it, and I know this is hard to look at because you're looking over people, but was it Peter's Township?
Peters Township, yeah.
Yeah, to ensure students are college and career ready. That's the goal of the school board. We also talked about a profile of graduate. As we move forward, well, what does that profile look like? We're not quite there yet because we've kind of taken some different directions with the mission work, but perhaps the next goal would be to create a profile of a graduate of what that looks like. What elements are underneath of that to be able to do that? But if we start with this as our first goal, to ensure students are college and career ready, that's our goal. And then what are the action items underneath of that? We have a December review of the Future Ready Index, and we need to put a little caveat with the assumption that the state has the Future Ready Index completed at that particular time. Yep, time of acquisition. We're at the mercy of the state. We're making data-driven decisions is another action item. And then we're also learning what we need to learn. And underneath of that are going to be the elements of, the learning modules that are part of that process. Dr. Ben, behind the scenes here, has the modules.
It's just a variety. There's an academic testing one, board organization, how to do your self-assessment, board role in finance and budget. Community engagement. Facilities planning. So you can look at these, and all of you should have logins. If you don't, the ladies can send you a login.
Was this centered around the Future Ready Index in December, that we be planning one related to that?
Yeah, I was looking. I have videos on overviews of Future Ready that are community-based, that wouldn't necessarily come from this, so I could put a link to that in the update.
There was one, I think, that the school board influenced.
Student achievement.
If you reflect back to, I came on board in about October. I think maybe we did it in December, somewhere around there. We had given you a whole packet of the future ready. Of course, it's, it's not what you're thinking about now, but we can give you the same information that we gave you last year. There's some video footage. There's a community-based document. There's a school board-based document. There are teacher-based documents. They're all part of they call it like a PR packet that went with Future Ready Index because that's when it got kicked off.
We're able to put all that into, like, we have a library section in Board Docs.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can have maybe like a folder or
Yep.
section.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
There you
That
go.
sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
All right, we'll set it up.
And we can augment that with future-ready resources that you already have.
And to Mr. Boos's, I'm going, if in Board Docs, I will, if you put a file folder in there, I will make it the 1819. Because it really is the data that was given for last year, which was the 1819 data. The new data that we're getting is actually going to be the strike that. It would actually be 1718, and the new data will be the 1819 from last year. So I apologize. I put that further. My gosh. So I'll put it in there, because new data should be coming out shortly, I would think. So what Dr. Obero and I can do, because I don't want to take any more time to carefully craft,
Yeah.
we'll wordsmith this into the template for you based upon what we heard tonight. We will collect all of our goal data points to keep, to say, yes, you were here to have those discussions. And then we will, hopefully by the weekly update this week, we will have just a one-pager with the to ensure students are college and career ready overarching goal for the school board.
That's excellent.
Does anybody have any questions or
Well done.
comments?
Yeah, well done. I like the way you facilitated it. Thank you both. All three.
Well done.
Very good.
Well, and it truly is an example. This is what we do. So it brings it into context to make learning relevant to people. That it's really difficult sometimes just to talk at people, and it's about really being collaborative in process. So thank you for all of your efforts to. Wow, I mean, look at everything you guys came up with tonight. That's awesome.
And with our time.
And there's
I'm so
2 minutes
excited.
to spare, Dr. Ben. So, do you have anything to share?
I will tell you just an FYI, PSBA is actually in the process of coming out with, I forgot the official title, but a number of states do what they call Board of Distinction. As you saw in this, you get badges and recognition, but they're actually now starting to develop some type of recognition program to encourage boards to actually implement the best practices. In Virginia and in Texas, they actually do that, and give boards actual recognition for completing key items and demonstrating key practices that they would say this is a board that's functioning in a state like we articulate a board should be. So that is coming down the pipe. And my only comment, Madam Chair, you have.
All right. Nope. Does anybody else have any committee comments or anything they would like to add to tonight? And
do have
Mr.
one.
Stout, go ahead.
One last component is we had this, I did not give an overview, but this is the PSBA Principles for Governance and Leadership. I believe this was discussed at the last board meeting, right, Dr. Bedden? Yes. So if you have the ability to sign it, I have a pen here. Mr. Foose, I will steal your spot at the end of the table there that people could sign it on their way out.
And I would really encourage everybody to sign it, because I think that one of the things that PSBA is going to do in terms of having high-performing school boards is the very first step to a high-performing school board is number one, it's going to be that everybody is trained, because we have to, that's a state mandated law, and they're going to be looking at that to make sure that everybody's trained. And then everybody starts off the year with accepting the PSBA rules of governance. So I think it would be a really positive step forward for our board if everybody would sign it. And when Mr. Brees is here, we can ask him to put his signature on it as well. Any other comments? Yes.
We're coming back to the Future Ready Index. In the things that are online now, I guess they're kind of mock-ups, right, of different schools. There's some information, demographics on the Future Ready Index
No,
of select schools.
they're real.
Okay, so,
That's real live.
all right,
videos.
so, but then I don't notice anything rolled up at a district level. Everything's at a school level, is that correct?
Right,
Okay.
and that's why I spoke to this, that we will be bringing you how
okay.
internally we can roll up and say, as a district report card, here's how we're doing. We gotta bring you some standards, and the team is looking at the current data, how we measure right now compared to the goals, and then where PDE has not articulated a goal, like what percent they want to advance, let's look at where we are now and project out a goal for attainment.
Thank you.
And one of the things that we actually talked about as a department today is we can extract the data, and I'm not going to bother turning on the presentation, but we can extract the data into a spreadsheet, so we can create a compilation of data points across the district. They only let you compare, I believe, 8 schools, but we have 10 schools in our district, so if we take 2 spreadsheets and combine them, we're already on trying to compile the information, so.
Thank you.
So I look forward to seeing the dashboards and the compilation and everything. I would just ask that consider some type of summary to give context to it, because I know individual data points aren't always actionable, even if they move up or down, because they don't indicate a trend. Could be something with a particular cohort and all sorts of other things that could go into it. And having it available is one thing, having people understand it is another. So I think anything we can do to help that would be good.
Well, if you remember, that's when we first introduced you, that was a cautionary note that we tried to articulate to people. For example, when you look at it now, you'll see, and I'll just use it, Gilbertsville in one area on test scores, and then Corbindale. And then you look at growth, Corbindale is the leading school in the district with like
81%.
81%.
Of growth. So it's very, you have to really look at the data. Dr. Obero last year with the administrative team did a scavenger hunt through the Future Ready to try to give people data points to find, and then find aha moments or things they were really surprised about. If time would avail, and with access to your laptops, we could potentially provide a learning opportunity like that for all of you to really, go in, and we call it a sandbox, to go in there and kind of play with the data and see it.
That's professional development.
There you go.
So the sandbox sounds fun.
We give a Tonka truck,
Yeah.
a Tonka truck, and a scoop and a shovel. Yeah.
So I guess like on a building level, maybe if we could have like the principals of each building just do like a paragraph summary, and it be signed off by, like, reviewed by administration, and then at the administrative level, a district-wide summary, maybe just a paragraph or so to give context to that. I think that would be good.
Yeah. And remember, we talked about in the early stages, the buildings will have their own action plans. And our goal is that trimester progress, they're going to report out on that, and then we are going to put the data in probably. We have to talk to Allison about that, about the best, most effective way to see the data, probably connected to the building individual webpage, but I also think having it on one page on the website that kind of shows what what each building's working on, I think is pretty critical. And the building principals administration will be working on how they are working towards their trimester data.
And I would say that that video you saw that was 10 minutes, we're finding that little 5 to 10 minute clips explaining something is actually getting more positive reaction rather than having to read all of the stuff. So one of the things we may want to do is have one of the staff actually explain what those mean in a little short, 10-minute or less video to go with the release.
Yeah, it was a really good video. I saw it pop up on my YouTube earlier, so I apologize.
You saw it already.
I've already shared it, so I did not realize you guys were holding off.
It literally just got completed about a week or so ago,
Yeah.
and it's kind of trickled out a little bit, but Dr. Ben communicated with our office today and thought it would be good to add so that you guys are in the kind of the forefront of seeing it officially.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing and was impressed by it and thought this is really good information. So I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into
on a
to
side
this
note,
and the video and everything.
Thank you. On a side note, we have talked to our business office, and we're potentially working on creating a video as we continue to have the same fiscal conversation across the district to create a video that provides that same overview so that it's a link that everybody can see the resource. And honestly, behind the scenes, the high school, the work they do, it's as good as an ESPN video or an ABC News.
That was high quality.
It's very professionally done. It's in high definition. And what the great part about, you don't see, there's a lot of clips in there. And they just morph it together into one video. So as it was 10 minutes, I know Mr. Wales was at the high school a lot longer than 10 minutes to create the video.
Okay, any other committee comments? Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just want to give a shout out to our HSAs, our PTOs. Had the privilege of attending 3 of them recently, and they are working hard towards their basket raffles right now, which is their main funding for their children in the school. And so I want to give, Washington is having theirs on Friday the 18th. Coberdale's is having theirs on October 25th. And Earl is having theirs on November 8th. Like I said, that's their big fundraiser. That's the majority of their money. And it goes to all of our students in that school. So if anybody has a chance, Earl, I think, is down to, last I checked, there was like 90. I believe Washington said they have about 20 left. And Coverdale, I'm not sure how they're, but 3 great groups of PTOs, HSAs that are doing some great work for our students.
Yeah, that's great. I think almost every elementary school now does a basket party, which is really great. And I think it was started at Boyertown. I think they stole it from some St. Columbkille's basket party, and I think or Gilbertsville. I think Gilbertsville started it, and they stole it from St. Columbkille, and then every single one. And it's their main funding source for their budgets for the HSAs and PTOs. So thank you, Ms. Nyman, for.
And there's a lot of work
pointing that
behind
out.
the scenes for the donations to those
Oh my
basket
gosh.
parties. And in stepping away from a building just this past year, I could not believe the amount of work about getting donations and sponsors. It is an incredible amount of labor. So very beneficial, but there's a lot of work.
Upcoming meeting dates are on our website. I don't have them on here, but basically every Tuesday night we're here. And do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Foos. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Stop. Mr. Bruce.